being Kiffin was coined when he got fired on the tarmac after USC was embarrassed by Arizona State. They flew home. They pulled him off the bus, and he gets Kiffin. He gets fired out in the middle of nowhere, right? But this takes being Kiffin out to a whole different level. He had a bizarre series of play calls in the national semifinal, just like for whatever reason, was like they didn't want to give it to Bo Scarborough. You know, he's bubble screen left and right with a freshman quarterback, almost costing them at least a chance of momentum in a game in which they were clearly dominant. So to be relieved of his duties, to mutually agree to move on to his next job 6 days before the national championship game, that's the new being Kiffin. What do you make of what actually happened between him and Saban?
I think Saban decided he didn't want him at the program anymore. And look, I think they went back and watched the film, and Saban decided, probably in consultation with other people, this was the kind of game plan that could have lost us this game, even though we were at least 2 and probably 3 touchdowns better than Washington. And I think he said, look, the distractions, the quotes, being in the media. Remember, Kiffin is not – what I think helped Kiffin a great deal with Nick Saban was Saban doesn't allow his assistant coaches to talk to the media. In fact, the only time they're allowed to talk to the media is at big events like this, the college football playoff, right? They have to be made available, offensive and defensive coordinators. Otherwise, they talk to the media before the season starts, and they wouldn't talk to the media otherwise. And Kiffin has always been unable to have a sense, I believe, for how his words are going to be played. And I like Kiffin. I think he's an interesting guy, and I've come to like him. I thought he was crazy for a while, but I think he is maladroit when it comes to speaking, and I think he's socially awkward. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You probably have buddies. I've got buddies who, you're like the last person you want to talk to the media is this guy. You play sports. I mean, everybody's ever been on a team is like, I love this guy, but this is the last guy I want talking to the media about anything, right? Kiffin's like that.
How could you possibly be a head coach and be like that?
Well, I think you have to win at a high level, and then you just have to basically take control of the entire media environment. Look, there are guys who aren't good with the media that go to programs, and frankly, I think that's why Kiffin left Tennessee.
Yeah, but see, I don't.
When he was at Tennessee, he wasn't ready for it. He didn't understand it was like being the governor of a program. At FAU, he hardly have any media to cover the games or talk to him. Even at like Colorado, we had Mike McIntyre on the phone. I asked him one tough question, he hangs up on me. Like, that's a guy who couldn't handle being in the middle of the hurricane of SEC football or Big Ten football, where you're getting aggressively peppered.
But Clay, I think you're taking it the wrong way, though. I'm not saying that he can't control not having a bunch of media at Florida Atlantic, and if you win enough, it doesn't matter. I'm saying if you're socially awkward, like most of these guys, like even Nick Saban, when that microphone's off, and we've heard. When he's in a room, like he's a guy that people are drawn to. Right? He has charm. He has a persona about him. All these guys do. Now they'll completely change when the red light is on, but just in a room full of guys, they're the alpha. He's not. I mean, he's just not. He's not able. He's not a guy that people are drawn to and that other guys like. The guy's guy is usually the head football coach. No.
No, I think there's a strong argument there. I will say this. I think Kiffin is better in small circles. So I do think he's pretty good with recruits. And he's socially awkward like a 17 or 18-year-old guy is socially awkward. So I don't think it comes across to a 17 or 18-year-old like it would to a 48-year-old, right? And most of the media he's talking to are not 17 or 18-year-old kids. Kiffin is brash, and he's confident, and he's got swagger, but it's like a socially awkward swagger. Yeah. And most 17 and 18-year-old kids who he's recruiting have the exact same personality as him, right? They're like, oh, we're going to go score 10 touchdowns, and then we're going to go bang a bunch of girls, and it's going to be awesome. Rah, 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 right? And I think it doesn't translate in a big room because you're like, whoa, that's kind of awkward. It'd be like the guy at the dinner party who makes the really inappropriate joke, and everybody's like, ooh.
I have a buddy like that. It's a really good. It's a great point. I have a buddy who's very successful, but when he's around bigger circles, sometimes the fart jokes is like it's a little bit too much. But I get it. I can take it, and
it works in like a one-on-one setting. Yeah. You're sitting in your house with your buddy, like watching a game. You're like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
But then you put 12 guys around him, and you're like, man,
too much.
Who's this guy?
Yeah,
like too much.
Yeah, too much. Last thing. Okay, so I mean, Clemson, who has been kind of up and down all over the place all this year, kind of like Florida State and Jameis's last year, finally put it together and stomped Ohio State. You need a dual threat quarterback to beat Alabama. You need a team with some dudes. outside the numbers and on the defensive front, offensive front as well to beat Alabama. They have that. Not a great offensive line, but they're, as you said, getting better, getting healthier. And now you have turmoil inside the Alabama program. No matter how much better the play calling is, it's still a weird thing to go through. Do you think Clemson beats Alabama?
No, I don't think they will. If they do, I think they will not for this reason. I think that Deshaun Watson has had a trouble turning the ball over all year. I think he has something like 21 interceptions so far this season. That's the thing you can't do to Alabama, because if you turn the ball over against Alabama with those defensive backs and that secondary, they score. And so that, to me, is the biggest flaw in Deshaun Watson's game. Now, if you told me that he was going to come out and have a clean sheet and not turn the ball over in any way, throw no interceptions, and here's the important part. Jalen Hurts has not been very good at taking care of the ball for Alabama.
No.
I think that Clemson can turn him over. So I think that Clemson has to win the turnover battle by 2 or 3. If they do that, they can win. If they play even, then Alabama's going to win.